The Lighthouse of Alexandria, sometimes called the Pharos of Alexandria, was a lighthouse built by the Ptolemaic kingdom of ancient Egypt during the reign of Ptolemy II Philadelphus 180 to 247 BC. It has been estimated to have been at least 100 meters, 330 feet in overall height. One of the seven wonders of the ancient world, for many centuries it was one of the tallest man-made structures in the world. The lighthouse was severely damaged by three earthquakes between 956 and 1303 AD and became an abandoned ruin. It was the third longest surviving ancient wonder, after the mausoleum at Halicarnassus and the extant Great Pyramid of Giza, surviving in part until 1480, when the last of its remnant stones were used to build the citadel of Kate Bay on the site. In 1994, a team of French archaeologists dove into the water of Alexandria's eastern harbor and discovered some remains of the lighthouse on the seafloor. In 2016, the Ministry of State of Antiquities in Egypt had plans to turn submerged ruins of ancient Alexandria, including those of the Pharos, into an underwater museum. Pharos was a small island located on the western edge of the Nile Delta. In 330 BC, Alexander the Great founded the city of Alexandria on an isthmus opposite Pharos. Alexandria and Pharos were later connected by a mole spanning more than 1,200 meters (0.75 miles), which was called the Heptastadion 7 Stadia. A stadion was a Greek unit of length measuring approximately one. The east side of the mole became the Great Harbor, now an open bay. On the west side lay the port of Eunastos, with its inner basin Kabotos now vastly enlarged to form the modern harbor. Today's city development between the present Grand Square and the modern Ras El Tin quarter is built on the silt which gradually widened and obliterated this mole. The Ras El Tin promontory, where Ras El Tin Palace was built in the 19th century, represents all that is left of the island of Pharos, the site of the lighthouse at its eastern point having been weathered away by the sea. The lighthouse was constructed in the 3rd century BC. After Alexander the Great died, Ptolemy I Soter declared himself king in 305 BC and commissioned its construction shortly thereafter. The building was finished during the reign of his son, Ptolemy II Philadelphus, and took 12 years to complete at a total cost of 800 talents of silver. The light was produced by a furnace at the top, and the tower was said to have been built mostly with solid blocks of limestone and granite. In his encyclopedic manuscript Geographica, Strabo, who visited Alexandria in the late 1st century BC, reported that Sostratus of Cnidus had a dedication to the savior gods inscribed in metal letters on the lighthouse. Writing in the 1st century AD, Pliny the Elder stated in his Natural History that Sostratus was the architect, although this conclusion is disputed.
The blocks of sandstone and limestone used in the construction of the lighthouse have been scientifically analyzed to discover where they originated, with mineralogical and chemical analysis pointing to the Wadi Hammamat quarries in the desert to the east of Alexandria. Arab descriptions of the lighthouse are consistent, despite it undergoing several repairs after earthquake damage. Given heights vary only 15% from 103 to 118 meters 338 to 387 feet on a 30 by 30 meters 98 by 90. The Arab authors indicate that the lighthouse was constructed from large blocks of light-colored stone. The tower was made up of 3 tapering tiers, a lower square section with a central core, a middle octagonal section, and at the top, a circular section. Ai Masudi wrote in the 10th century that the seaward side featured an inscription dedicated to Zeus. Geographer Ai Idrisi visited the lighthouse in 1154 and noted openings in the walls throughout the rectangular shaft, with lead used as a filling agent in between the masonry blocks at the base. He reckoned the total height of the lighthouse to be 300 Dira Rashashal 162 m. At its apex was a mirror which reflected sunlight during the day. A fire was lit at night. Extant Roman coins struck by the Alexandrian Mint show that a statue of Triton was positioned on each of the building's 4 corners, and a statue of Poseidon or Zeus stood on top. The fullest description of the lighthouse comes from Arab traveller Abu Haggag Yusuf ibn Muhammad el-Balawi el-Andalusi, who visited Alexandria in 1166. Balawi provided a description and measurement of the interior of the lighthouse's rectangular shaft. The inner ramp was described as roofed with masonry at 7 Shiba 189 cm, 6.2 feet, noted as to allow 2 horsemen to pass at once. In clockwise rotation, the ramp held 4 stories, with 18, 14, and 17 rooms on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors, respectively.
In his 2nd century AD educational treatise, How to Write History, Lucian claimed that Sostratus hid his name under plaster which bore the name of Ptolemy, so that when the plaster eventually fell off, Sostratus's name would be visible in the stone.
Balawi reported the base of the lighthouse to be 45 by 30 m, 100 feet long on each side, with connecting ramp 600 dira 300 m, 984 feet long by 20 dira 10 m, 32 feet wide. The octagonal section was 20 for bar 16, 4 m, 54 feet in width, and the diameter of the cylindrical section 12.73 bar 8, 7 m, 28.5 feet. The apex of the lighthouse's oratory was measured with diameter 6.4 bar 4, 3 m 20.9 feet. Later accounts of the lighthouse after the destruction by the 1303 Crete earthquake include Ibn Battuta, a Moroccan scholar and explorer who passed through Alexandria in 1326 and 1349. Battuta noted that the wrecked condition of the lighthouse was then only noticeable by the rectangle tower and entrance ramp. He stated the tower to be 140 Shiba 30, 8 m, 101 feet on each side. Battuta detailed Sultan and Nasser Muhammad's plan to build a new lighthouse near the site of the collapsed one, but these went unfulfilled after the Sultan's death in 1341. The lighthouse was partially cracked and damaged by earthquakes in 796 and 951, followed by structural collapse in the earthquake of 956, and then again in 1303. Earthquakes propagate from 2 well-known tectonic boundaries, the African-Arabian and Red Sea rift zones, respectively 350 and 520 kilometers from the lighthouse's location. Documentation shows the 956 earthquake to be the first to cause structural collapse of the top 20 meters of the construction. Dondom and repairs after the 956 earthquake include the installation of an Islamic-style dome after the collapse of the statue that previously topped the structure. The most destructive earthquake in 1303 had an estimated intensity of 8+, originating from Crete 280,350 kilometers from Alexandria. The stubby remnant disappeared in 1480 when the Sultan of Egypt, Kate Bey, built a medieval fort on the larger platform of the lighthouse site using the fallen stone. The 10th century Arab writer A.I. Masudi reports a legendary tale of the lighthouse's destruction, according to which Caliph Abd A.I. Malik ibn Marwan at 705-715, the Byzantines sent a eunuch agent who adopted Islam, gained the caliph's confidence and secured permission to search for hidden treasure at the base of the lighthouse. The search was cunningly made in such a manner that the foundations were undermined and the pharos collapsed. The agent managed to escape in a ship waiting for him.